country, or there's a threat to your life, or from poverty or something. There's been refugees like across centuries. I mean, even during the World War, for instance, in Germany, Germans actually fled their country, They had to flee to America to actually seek for refuge there. So that's the problem. But the problem is the fact that they put everybody in this category just because you're African, you understand? And that's what we always try to deconstruct. And then I would give another example, and I think everybody here as students, we all know this, like in Germany when you go to the club, it's like a 50-50 win, maybe you get in or you don't get in. So, and then for the black girls, for instance, you're allowed entry into the club, you know why? Fetishism, because of course you get to shake your butt for the white guys to actually see you, But for the black guys, what happens, like you have to probably check yourself, how you dress, how you carry yourself, and the white person doesn't need to, because he's privileged, So there was this day, like my black friends always tell me, but I never experienced it because I get into the club anytime I want. So I went with my German friends to the club, and then my black guy friend told me he was going to join me later. And then he called me, was outside, so I came out to pick him. And the security man, the bouncer, told me, no, sorry, he can't go in. And me, like normally I'm a very outspoken person, I always demand answers for everything. I said, why not? And then he said, no reason, he just can't go in. And I saw other white guys who were actually really drunk, going in, having free access. And then I went back into the club to call my German guy friend because, sometimes you always need to fly on the wing of the privileged person. Sometimes you need the privileged person to speak for you, not because you can't speak for yourself, but because what they see is not a smart person. All they see is probably some kind of criminal or some kind of unintelligent person. So I went in, and then he came out, and then it was like, okay, but it belongs to us, it's with us, why don't you let him come in? And I said, sorry, he can't come in. And I was so mad that day, so I just picked up my bag and I went back home, And that's another example. And my final example is the one I will tell you. My German friends actually took a tour around Asia. And they have this visa, because it's like a tourism visa, but they can't get into a particular country. I forget the name of the country in Asia. You need an additional visa to get in. But what happened, he told me, he and his friends, like, at the border, what they did was they bought a chewing gum and then they plastered it on their passport, where they actually write, accept this particular country. And then they got to the border, what happened? The security men just looked at it like the border countrymen and just let them in. And then I told him, I said, you know what? You just breathe, you just roll on the wings of your privilege. A black person can't get access to that country. You know why? Because when they say black person, what they see is probably someone illegal already, they already have some prejudice to attack. Your body is already interpreted from their dominant gaze, you understand? And this is what I always try to make people understand. You can never ever flee, no matter how intellectual you are, you can never flee from the interpretation of your body, of your phenotype, from a dominant gaze. And there are some kind of tools I always use to navigate because I'm very, very much into the discourse of identity, like it's something I talk about all the time. I'm used to resisting, not just resisting like global discourse, but resisting like discourses personally, because everybody knows like you can't tell me nothing, I'm going to have like a response for it. So like, I wrote some things down and I would like read it out to you. Racism feeds on an ideology that enables itself by dehumanizing and devaluing the culture of the other. So it's like this. If you have a subject, you must definitely have somebody who is actually put in the uninhabitable like space. Because to have a subject, to have a space which is legitimate, you need something which is illegitimate. And this is what they have made us into. They've created, from their own gaze, they've actually made us into like, how can I explain it? Like they've interpreted our body as the other, and not just our body, our culture, as the other. And this is why racism continues to exist. Oppression is not only physical and structural, it is also psychological. So we must first decolonize our mind on which the structure of the other is established. Modernity is often equated with Europe and Europeanization, embracing European culture and and maintaining its traditions. We are ignored and exploited and continue to be exploited because we allow it to happen. We are therefore defeated not only on the battlefield, but in the realm of ideas, and in many cases, our conquerors become our heroes instead of villains, with us falling on our feet and glorifying Europe. Let's not forget we had empires, kingdoms, dynasties before the coming of the Europeans. Of course, I mean, you know, we have the Benin Kingdom and the Oyo empire and everything like that before the coming of the Europeans. Let's not forget how the invasion of European imperialism changed the course of African history. So now, why do we try desperately to become more European than the Europeans themselves? No country has ever achieved power, survived, or developed without unity. So why are we not united, knowing what it is to be powerless? There's this saying, like it's in pidgin, photocopy no fit be like original. It means photocopy can never be like original. Imitation is the creation of an obscene caricature. Creating structures, normativities, which draw inspiration from Europe should be discarded. For knowledge acquired from an outside source can never be applied adequately like the owner of such knowledge, because most of the time, it don't fit the climb you are trying to force it into. This does not make us stupid. Rather, the knowledge does not belong to us. Let us generate ideas, what we should be known for, reach back into history, reflect on our present and our past. A nation without the knowledge of its history is a lost nation. Let us assess the damage inflicted on us by the West, while at the same time acknowledging the benefits of Western civilization brought to us. Be proud of your African identity. Bring this to the table to bear on your research. Academics, own your narrative as a subject within this narrative and not as a victim, for you can't be treated as an inferior without you allowing it. And I will end my story with this example. One day, my flatmate actually was telling me about African food. And then she said, oh, you know, she's German. And then she said, oh, you know, my German friend actually cooked some kind of African Kenyan food. She visited Kenya for some time. And you know, it smelled so disgusting and bad. And you know, she wanted me to practice, she wanted to get some kind of reaction from me. And I just said, okay. But some German food also tastes shitty, you know, and they also smell bad to me. So the point actually is the fact that the reason why she is able to vocalize that is because of her position as the subject. In Europe here, the education always positions them as the subject, their culture as the subject. And this is why she's able to vocalize that without actually seeing that we have diverse cultures, we have diverse food. I mean, even for me, I don't even eat every Nigerian food, you know, but she still thinks it is disgusting. It is okay to be disgusting. But my reaction to her opinion would actually also be my position in my own story as the subject. You know, me also seeing her food as disgusting. And then, for instance, I'm almost done. And then, for instance, I will just make a quick note. When in our education system, we say A for apple. We don't have apple in Africa, but we continue to teach our kids A for apple. What does that mean? We're actually saying there's a knowledge somewhere else which is actually superior to ours and which we actually have to look up to. Because theory and practical go together. You need A for something familiar to your society. And this is what we need to look for. Go back into our society, look for practical ideas, reach back into us, you know, our culture, our ancestors, and then, you know, bring all this together and be the subject in our story. So,